then I like being in a place where I can walk barefoot every morning, talk to people, be known. Yeah, I think that's really important to have both of those. Living on Gulf Islands in general brings a certain kind of person, and a certain kind of creativity, and it's nice to be mutually supportive. As just a journalist working for The Guardian when I went to England in 2000, and so a lot of that work was speaking to people. And while I was there, I was introduced to my editor, who's still my editor, Matt Weiland, who works for Norton Books in New York, and he and I shared this love of Studs Terkel, and I had come to Studs through drama school, or through drama classes, really, my undergrad degree, where you look at some of his work for monologues and that sort of thing. But Matt had actually edited Studs's books, new Studs, so we formed this bond over that type of writing and interviewing. And Matt convinced me to go to this little village in Suffolk, and do an update of a classic English book of oral history called Aikenfield. So that was my first. I've always been interviewing, but I think it opened my eyes to how interviews and voice can become a very interesting and democratic way to show a place where you're, instead of you imposing your views. I've always had this distrust of travel writers who show up and they speak to one cab driver and think they know, can pass judgment on a place. And what I like about oral history is you're saying, it's not me. I want to hear what you feel of this place. And in that little village in Suffolk, there were people there was one guy there who had never left the village in his 80 years. There were people there who really knew every fold of the land, every parcel, every farm. So instead of me imposing myself, it's much easier in this form to build literature out of the voices of people who know, and have the vocabulary of their professions and of their lives and of their vernacular, which I find very exciting. And it's meant to look easy. I mean, the great compliments I have with these books is, oh, that must have been fun chatting with people for a few weeks. When, Londoners took 5 years, New Yorkers took maybe 5.5, 6. And so in this form, you are not able to sort of create your own poetry. You are listening and guiding someone to create it themselves. You're sort of taking this great overspill of audio from the world and trying to find something meaningful, something poetic, something lasting in it. So I like that challenge too, that someone could read a book and think that it could be done in 2 weeks, when in fact it's been just years and years and years of getting to know people and listening and returning to people. And I can't think of a better way to spend time. Well, the nice thing about this form too is that it capsizes any idea that you would have, any imposition you would have going in. I think New York is this. Great, but if 200 people disagree with you and put forward a more interesting answer, then you are helpless to that process and those findings. And I much prefer that, in terms of just the nonfiction I love, which is seeking and questioning and brings about writers who have humility in the face of their subjects. I love that kind of writing. I love writing that's deeply invested. Adrienne Nicole LeBlanc, Catherine Boo, Joseph Mitchell, people who spend a lot of time to get past their own preconceived notions and hopefully find something true, in listening. I think that is the great thing. I've been very lucky to have been given subjects that I don't have to feign interest in. I mean, I know some people, think they need to do a book and they grasp for a subject and it might interest them, but to be told at various times in my life, you get to spend 5 years wandering the city of London, which you already are fascinated by, listening to as many people as possible, getting into adventures. And then when that book was published, to be told, would you like to move to New York City and try to replicate that? I cannot imagine a better assignment, a better way of spending time, something that I didn't have to feign interest in. Like it's easy because in both those cities as well, you are gaining access to every single subject. Um, so so yeah, I think some nonfiction writers have a tougher time of it because for one reason or another, they're grabbing a subject that they might be interested in for a couple weeks, but you don't want to dedicate huge chunks of your life to something that you're only mildly interested in. People on the West Coast are sometimes just so caught up in talking about how beautiful it is that they forget to conserve that beauty. I think that's the mythology of the West is wonderful in some ways, but it's also, you know, precarious. This place is being changed all the time, and we really have to fight to keep what's unique and beautiful about it. But um, the other thing about the cities of visiting them and living in them and returning to them is, you know, the city always wins too. Like you do your time. You may be Mr. New York City, um, but that only gives you at best like 80 years, 90 years maybe in this entity that is constantly changing and moving forward. So I still feel deeply attached to both London and New York and grateful for these for the way that I was able to gain this very in-depth knowledge of both. But I'm under no illusion that like these I have my brief span there, you do, others do, but that's what makes them so incredible is that they charge on. They're changing, you know. Both of these books are already these kind of historical documents because the cities have changed so much, you know, in 5 years and 10 years. So yeah, so I'm always lucky to get caught up in their energy. Um, but I'm also conscious that like, you know, you need to feel soil under your feet and have dug furs around and swim in the ocean. So yeah, that's where I'm at.